Good afternoon. My name is Elizabeth Andrew, and this is part of my submission for the National Academy Medical School Scholarship Challenge. As a disclaimer, there are images in this presentation that will be disturbing to many viewers. I would like to begin my presentation by giving you my reasons for participating both in the Congress of Future Physicians and this challenge. I have always been interested in helping my community, my country, and my world by providing services that improve people's health. For example, I have cooked at my local homeless shelter since I was 9 years old. Similarly, I've spent time conversing with both the elderly and the homeless. This provides mental stability as speech is a human necessity. I also spent time cleaning local roadsides and creeks, important to environmental health. Thus, when I received my invitation from the National Academy of Future Physicians and Medical Scientists, I was ecstatic. It had always been my deepest desire to meet people's needs, and I had already been considering the medical field, so to be recognized as a future medical leader was very inspirational. It was partially this inspiration that motivated me to participate in the National Academy Medical School Scholarship Challenge. The other half of my inspiration for this project came from Dr. Peter Diamandis. During his presentation at the February 2014 session of the Congress of Future Medical Leaders, he spoke about his dream of spaceflight. He believed that commercial spaceflight was possible, and in order to bring his dream to life, he offered a reward of $10 million. Within 8 years, commercial spaceflight was achieved by Spaceship One. Dr. Diamandis took an industry that had always been reserved for governments and put it in the hands of the common man. This led me to ask why not apply the concept of incentivized innovation to more common problems. One of the most common problems plaguing the developing world today is poor water quality. I researched this subject, and what I learned is appalling. 780 million people around the world lack access to an improved water source. That's approximately 1 in every 9 people on the planet. More than 3.4 million people die each year from water, sanitation, and hygiene-related causes. Nearly all deaths, 99%, occur in the developing world. About 1.5 million child deaths each year is due to diarrhea. It kills more young children than AIDS, malaria, and measles combined. Diarrhea is more prevalent in the developing world due in large part to the lack of safe drinking water. Water is the most basic necessity, and people struggle every day to satisfy their thirst. This struggle affects every aspect of their lives, but especially their health. Contaminated water can lead to all of the following diseases, as you will see in these graphic photographs. Arsenicosis. Long-term exposure to low concentrations of arsenic in drinking water causes painful skin keratosis, which is hardened lesions of the skin, and can result in cancers of the skin, lungs, bladder, and kidney. This arsenic is commonly from natural sources. Cholera, an acute bacterial infection of the intestinal tract. It causes severe attacks of diarrhea that without treatment can quickly lead to an acute dehydration and death. Fluorosis, a serious bone disease caused by high concentrations of fluoride occurring naturally in groundwater. Typhoid, a bacterial infection caused by ingesting contaminated food or water. Symptoms are characterized by headaches, nausea, and loss of appetite. Though not deadly, this disease is still quite painful and unnecessary since its solution is safe food practices and clean water. Guinea worm disease. People contract this disease when drinking water contaminated with Dracunculosis larvae. The larvae mature into large, adult guinea worms and leave the body after about 1 year, causing debilitating ulcers. Schistosomiasis. Bathing, washing clothes, and swimming in water contaminated with Schistosoma cercaria can cause infection, and without treatment, these parasites will damage the liver, intestines, lungs, and bladder. Trachoma, a chronic contagious infection of the eye characterized by the formation of granulations and scarring. Diarrhea. As with the statistics above, though this may not seem like a disease as much as an inconvenience, in areas without clean water, diarrhea is a deadly and painful killer. It causes dehydration, and without water to rehydrate, it can cause death. Most deaths caused by diarrhea are in children. In addition to simply having these diseases, the lack of clean water means rehydration exposes the already weakened person to more illness. The people who most often suffer from this vicious cycle are children whose immune system is already not as effective as an adult's. Furthermore, these children are often malnourished, which dramatically increases the risks associated with waterborne diseases. These are all facts. Here's another fact. As medical professionals and aspiring professionals, our greatest goal is to care for our fellow man. Because of our scientific background, we can see predicaments like the water scarcity crisis as a calamity that can and should be solved. We all understand that clean, uncontaminated water is essential for a healthy body. Therefore, to solve this health crisis, I have hypothesized the most effective way is to build more safe wells and educate the people on preventing contaminations of these wells by fertilizers, animal feces, and human wastes, which can contain large quantities of contaminants. By extension, I reason that using the local population for these tasks would be a highly efficient way of implementing change. However, this method, which has been practiced for at least 13 years, is not reducing the agony and death in sub-Saharan Africa, Western Asia, or the Oceania regions. It was at this point that I remembered Dr. Diamande's Anasari X Prize. That prize breathed life into a new industry. So how can I apply that to clean water? The answer is incentives. Right now, first world countries are trying to solve the water crisis for underdeveloped countries. But to really make a difference, these countries will need to build for themselves. Thus, my final thesis is to encourage water availability and purity by giving monies as a grant to corporations already in underdeveloped areas who can educate the populace on water safety and hygiene, as well as hire locals to build wells. The implementation of my plan will call for 3 stages: cooperation of the corporation, involvement of the government, and finally, education of the community. In order to begin, I plan to gain the assistance of large corporations such as Coca-Cola, PepsiCo, McDonald's, Google, and Apple by explaining the benefits of this plan to their company. Improving the economically depressed areas in which they already sell products, they will boost the economy, consequently boosting sales. More importantly, support of this project will function as advertising in countries like the United States that are sympathetic to those less fortunate peoples. As of now, many commercial campaigns target philanthropic consumers by demonstrating how buying a product will benefit a particular community or charity. For example, Denny's advertised its partnership with America's egg farmers in a 15-second Super Bowl commercial with the slogan, "For every build-your-own omelet sold, 1 egg will be donated to No Kid Hungry." This one-week event raised more than 500,000 eggs. If a simple 15-second commercial from one business can have that large of an impact, what could we do if we had several companies working together on this project? The next step is concurrent with the first. As an additional incentive to corporations, I propose asking the country where they are based, which is the United States for the companies listed above, to offer participating companies tax breaks. This will be especially important as advertising opportunities are tempting, but tax breaks can really improve a business's bottom line. After the successful completion of the first 2 steps, the final step will be to hire locals and educate them on well construction, hygiene, and safe agricultural practices. These locals will then be paid to construct wells and educate their fellow citizens on safe water practices. Paying locals to educate their fellow countrymen creates ambassadors and establishes a deeper acceptance of what could be considered Western practices. It also creates jobs, which will encourage other small businesses to grow. This economic growth will have long-term effects on water purification because there will be more funds to keep wells functioning properly. At this time, I would like to assert that I'm discussing wells generically. There are actually many kinds of wells, and each has a specific function. Hand-dug wells are often used in underdeveloped countries, but these are very dangerous due to the high risk of collapse, and also the open nature makes it more vulnerable to contamination, like this one. There are also driven wells. These wells work best in softer soils, like sand or gravel, where the water is close to the surface. This design is safer than hand-dug wells because they will not collapse, but due to the proximity to the surface, there is still a risk of contamination. Finally, there are drilled wells. These are the most expensive to build, but reduce the risk of both contamination and implosion. In an attempt to research the cost of a drilled well, I discovered it's highly variable. This variation is based on the depth of the water, if there's rock to drill through, labor cost, fuel cost, and how far the equipment will have to be moved to the drilling location. These prices can change drastically from city to city in one country. However, based on the many sites I have visited, a tentative cost per person served is $10 US. This is a very small price to pay when compared to the treatment of even one of the diseases above. So I ask you, is this price really too much? Even if drilled wells are more expensive, if it can save children's lives and create a better, healthier world, isn't it worth putting these stages into action? My answer is a resounding yes. I have no doubt that the system can be very effective due to the similarities with historic America. The United States' first water purification system was a slow sand filtration system, and it began processing water in 1874. Technological advancements such as rapid sand filtration began in 1890, and chlorination started in 1902. However, it was not until 1974 that the U.S. government passed the Safe Drinking Water Act, which echoed the society's belief that every person had the right to clean water. It took the United States a century to create a highly efficient system for our population, but we did so with very few influences from our more developed nations. Thus, I understand that to achieve similar success, a country needs to build for itself, and hopefully it will succeed more quickly than the United States due to the added technological information that we have to offer. However, the key to this is that success is earned, not given. So why did I tell you all of this? Because the Congress of Future Medical Leaders helped me understand that medicine is not for the elite few, but a global right. I wanted my project to have a global impact, and I know that improving access to pure water will benefit people for many generations to come. I passionately believe that my plan holds the solution. I know my idea is far from the traditional, put in a well and teach them how to pump water. That method is synonymous with ibuprofen for a broken bone. The medicine masks the pain but does not cure the ailment. In this case, the only cure for the developing world's water crisis is to educate the citizens on their essential need for clean water and teach them how to attain that resource for themselves. In conclusion, I explained all of this to say that the best way to heal a person's body is to keep them from being sick. And the best way to do this is by educating underdeveloped areas on water safety and hygiene. Thank you so much for your attention, and I hope you enjoyed my research.